Hello YouTube, Al here, and this week we've got another cheap Overdrive review. So, this is the Joyo Hot Plexi. Does what it says on the tin. It's a gold coloured pedal, got the word Plexi on it, got the word hot on it. We all know what it does. So this is meant to sound like a Plexi Moreshall amplifier, those classic amplifiers made in the, the 60s onwards, you know, all those used by Led Zeppelin and Paul Kossoff and, you know, AC/DC / millions of records. Ooh, throw a stick, you'll find one with a Plexi on it. It's one of them. So it's meant to emulate a overdriving Marshall amplifier and the distortion wherein. It's a really pretty simple pedal. I mean, it's got a pretty nice metal chassis. Weirdly, the finish on it is sort of a matte feel, which I quite like. It's quite nice. I mean, I don't care if they're shiny or not really. Most pedals are shiny, it doesn't matter. But I suppose, what the hell? It feels a bit different. Maybe they put some effort into it. Got a pretty decent quality foot switch. It's a very, very light pedal, actually. Very light. Compared to this one, the Joyo, the EQ, this is a lot heavier, seriously, about a third heavier probably than this is. I feel like I could, you know, I feel like I could juggle them. There's just nothing to this. Very, very light indeed. LED at the side here. Input output, it's 9 volt DC. I've written that on the side because I've put some tape on the back. It always annoys me, you get the sticker on the back, you have to put bleeding tape over it. Just write it on the side next to the socket, you know, it's not difficult. So, anyway, we've got 3 knobs, you know, level, which is the volume of the pedal. You kind of want to match that to the amplifier, unless you want it slightly louder for a solo boost, or even quieter if you can use it for a rhythm sound and take the gain away. Gain knob here, self-explanatory, and tone knob, which is how much sort of beef or scrag, as I call it, it goes towards. Well, enough of my yakking. It's a very, very simple pedal. Let's plug it in with a Les Paul and let's see if it does what it's supposed to do. This is 2. However it goes. I mean, to be fair, I think it has a bit more immediacy than a valve amp. When it's in tune. But I think it still has an immediacy and a kind of a sizzle. It reminds me of my Marshall MG, the solid state head. It reminds me of that. Not the articulate thing. That's no amp. Sorry, no pedal. This is with a pedal. that faffing. Gain up to halfway, so 12 o'clock now. A quarter more gain. We've been adding it in quarter increments, Christ. Quite big and mushy now. It feels quite flabby, a bit uncontrollable, or it feels very... Take the reverb off, that might help. Steve Jones the Defender. I know. Well, on the reunion tour he used a Moreshall, so... Right, that sounds the same. I swear that sounds the same. I'll turn game back down to naught. This is nothing. Right, 12. It sounds pretty much the same, I'll be honest. It feels a little bit hairier, maybe a bit more bassy, but it feels pretty much the sodding same. Today! Come on, here. So, gain up to a quarter of the way for the same. That's the same thing. Sorry, that's the same. What? Is that it? Is that it? Single notes. A bit more sizzly. Is that it? almost got Black Sabbath-y. If I turn the tone up, maybe it does the Sabbath thing, so 3/4 of the way up. So maybe it does the Sabbath thing. Bit of reverb, bit of, you know, room, girth, majesty. Do you know what? It's got the tonality there, but it's not got a lot of gain. If I turn the tone down, back to about 2 o'clock. Get up to full. Lot of bass, lot of bass. If I turn the bass down on my amp, maybe that'll help. Very thin now. Up. Trying to test the bounce, if you know what I mean. Doesn't sound any different from no gain. I mean, not to me. I'm gonna go do the Mastodon thing because that's what you do. feels pretty much the same, but so turn it to a quarter of the way. So when the pedal comes in, it basically breaks up. It doesn't feel like there's much clean coming through with it. It's not supposed to sound like that, but I know. If I lower the gain down, say just to 12 o'clock. So there is less gain, it does feel less responsive. That's a quarter. Halfway. Three quarters. Full on. Cool. So, for the last thing, I'm going to turn the distortion back down to 0. Actually, I'm going to leave the... no. Last thing is tone on full. So, leave the gain on 12 because it makes bugger all difference. Let's start tone on 0 and work from there. Quarter of the way up. Halfway. Three quarters. Full on. Now I've done that, it seems to make... I mean, it's more control of the low end rather than anything. It makes it feel a bit thinner, I suppose, when it's on the trebly side. Kind of that more Thin Lizzy, Paul Kossoff sort of thin, you know, sort of thing. It doesn't feel like it does that much to the tone, to be honest. So for the last thing, I just want to see if it's anything like a preamp pedal, because I've got the Joyo American Sound here, which is a Fender, you can see it, Fender-ish style preamp pedal. So I want to see if the Golden Plexi is anything in that vein, ilk. So distortion back to nothing. And I simply want to see if it sounds alright with the tube screamer on top, as we are all oft to do. So let's try some darkness, why not? It's a tube screamer to a Marshall, we'll see who's in it. TS9. Ooh. Tube screamer on its own. Very light overdrive. It's both again. That's the one. I'm playing an A a lot, I know, sorry. I'm that mood today. So there you have it. That's a look at the Hot Plexi by Joyo. There you go. For a very, very light, literally, overdrive, it's got a massive, massive sound. It's very, very girthy. Does it sound like a Plexi? Do you know what? I think it does. I think it's pretty reasonably Plexi-ish. I mean, the Marshalls I've tried. I remember I had a JCM 2000. I had that for a while. I've got my Marshall MG, I've got my little Marshall practice amp I started off with, that's an MG to be fair. It really does remind me of the MGs, and the MGs are close to the JCM 2000 big boy tube thing. They have a tube-ish kind of feel, with kind of a, not quite harsh or brittle, but there is a sort of a immediacy to them. And I feel like the NG gain is a lot like this. This feels quite similar. And surprisingly, I found this worked best when I just used it as basically a preamp. It's just gain stacked. The tube screamer into this, I mean, crikey, that's alright, isn't it? That's a tone and a half, isn't it? I would probably use this as a rhythm sound on its own. I quite liked it for that. Again, I would have it quite trebly. It's quite a big sounding overdrive. Not that gainy really, but very, very, very girthy. You do get that sort of tube sag feel that you get with tube amplifiers. It not like properly as you would with a tube, but you know, you get a bit of a sense of that. It does the job. It'll do the job on a dark night, you know. It's one of them. It's really not bad. It sounds pretty good. It's got a sound in its own right, to be fair. It's again not quite Marshall. It's not what I'd expect of an overdrive pedal as a sound, I think, although I mean, I'm thinking about light overdrive, sort of thing you'd put on top of other pedals. Like, I got this like yesterday, like this. Review incoming. Kaleen Pure Sky. I mean, this is more of a light drive boost sort of overdrive. Where's another one? Grab one randomly. So this is one. Yeah, that'll do. Rowan Dumbler. There you go. It's another light overdrive. I mean, these are quite. They don't feel like amps when you plug them into a clean channel. They just add a bit of gain in their own kind of voice. Kind of like a human voice, sort of that, their own sort of style of mid-range. Like my voice is mid-rangey, but yours will be deeper or lighter or, you know, whatever. But this, it feels so gainy and big and girthy. Almost fuzzy or mushy, almost, but not quite mushy. But it does do that sort of, again, it's the sag. It does do that sort of character of gain. It's quite surprising. It does get pretty close to an amp sort of feel of overdrive, which is what you're hoping to achieve. So, does it do what it says in the tin? In my opinion, yeah. okay, fair enough. It does do the Marshall sound. It's light. It's probably going to be quite cheap. I got this for like 15 quid second hand. I buy all my stuff second hand because it's cheaper. Okay, so those are the pros. Let's get on to the cons. The controls don't really do a lot. I mean, the levels, just volume, whatever. Leave that alone. Set and forget mostly. You don't really need to adjust the volume when you turn the gain up with most overdrive pedals. When you add more gain, you need to turn down the volume to try and compensate. You don't have the problem with this one. The gain doesn't really feel like it does a lot. I mean, feel-wise, it does, and especially when I was getting to the Mastodon territory, I did that because I felt at that point the game was starting to kick in to an extent that I could pull that sort of stuff off. Whereas otherwise, I mean, but before that point, it felt classic rock and it felt hard rock, but it never really felt it could go anything beyond that. It had that sort of, 59 into an overdriven valve amp, sort of buzzy, fuzzy, Z-ish, zzz sort of overdrive, as opposed to what we're used to today, with pedals and whatever. So it does have that sort of character again, but when you turn it up, it feels like it just adds more and more bass, and I guess it's more compression. It does feel a bit more compressed, but it doesn't really give you a lot more gain, and the feel doesn't change that much on the amplifier, but it does get big quick. It's the sort of thing that I would probably leave on for a rhythm tone, and then if I want a solo boost, I put something on top of this. Before or after, I put my tube screamer before this, just where I happened to slot it on my board, so the tube screamer was running into this, which does kind of make sense if you're going to use it as a preamp pedal, because your pedal will go into the amp and then into the speaker. You could put it where you wanted, but yeah, I think you could probably do fine stacking pedals on top of this to maybe I'll put, say, a tube screamer, for example, just put it after this to cut out the bass and to boost the mids, to tighten it up a bit. I dare say it would work really well that way around as well. It's a really good pedal for stacking because of the voicing of it and the kind of flubbiness of it. Not that many... Well, it's not that versatile on its own, I should say. Not that many uses. It's not that versatile. It does kind of have one sound. It is a bit of a one-trick Plexi. But there you go. Let me know what you think. I mean, Les Paul into Marshall. Does it get the sound? I think it's not half bad. So that's a look at the Hot Plexi from Joyo. Thank you very much for watching. My name's Al. Like, subscribe, all that nonsense, and I'll see you next week. So until then, bye-bye.
Bye!